Hi, everybody, and this is Colm Holland, and this is another episode of our now very famous Alchemy Lab podcast. And the podcast is primarily aimed at introducing you to some amazing people. And all of my guests so far have been absolutely awesome. And today's guest is absolutely no exception to that rule. They are all qualified to be in the Alchemy Lab for one particular reason, and that is that they are pursuing in their own life, to the best of their ability, their own personal transformation towards discovering their own true self. And this is a journey that is different for each person, and I'm thrilled today that I don't think we've ever had anybody who's coming at it from the angle that my guest today is. So without further to-do, I'm thrilled to introduce Alfonso Colasuonno. I hope I pronounced that correctly, Alfonso. Was that close?
It was very close, very close.
Okay, well, welcome to the Alchemy Lab, Alfonso. You're in Baltimore today, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Still dealing with the issues around COVID-19, yeah?
Yes, unfortunately, it's pretty severe here in Baltimore, but there's many worse parts of the United States right now. So we're kind of lucky in that respect.
Yeah, well, keep safe. And the reason I was thrilled when you accepted my invite to be on the Alchemy Lab today is that you are, in fact, a professional writer. You write books, you write screenplays, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. Fiction, which is amazing, and poetry. And you also help fellow writers. You have a website, make sure I've got this correct. It's the-lit-game.com, which is fantastic. Would you like to tell us a little bit about your work and what you're working on at the moment?
Sure. So I started writing mostly work about people in their 20s and 30s dealing with kind of young professional life and the challenges of such. And I sort of, just was able to get published in a lot of different literary magazines and for my poetry and my short fiction about that. Thank you.
Not easy.
And no, definitely not. And it wasn't until I met my co-author for the book of the Magical Mythical Unicorn, my co-author Vakasha Brennan, that I really took a more spiritual, more esoteric style of book. I've always been really fascinated by these topics, but I never really had a mentor in that respect until I met Vakasha and until she approached me about the idea of co-writing with Magical Mythical Unicorn with her. So, that's definitely a new direction for me as a writer, and we're really proud of what we created. And in terms of future projects, I just have sort of really thinking about what the next thing to do is with 2021. I was supposed to be working on a documentary series with an accompanying journalistic style book with Vakasha, but unfortunately she passed in May. So that kind of rearranges the plans a little bit. But for 2021, I'm thinking about continuing that work. It would be in some respect, basically putting myself into the unexplained situations and really just keeping an open mind about it and investigating it. And just, it would probably start as a series of blog posts and eventually transform into a book. And so I'm hoping to do that given COVID-19's reduction. So that project's kind of on hold until we're in a little bit better situation there. But I'm eager to start it soon, hopefully sometime in 2021.
Awesome. Kudos to you for getting published in so many different literary magazines. It's not easy. I often submit things, particularly poems, to these online competitions, and I get very polite letters back saying, thank you for your, so I get it, it's not easy. So your new book, which you just alluded to, is called The Book of the Magical Mythical Unicorn, a unique anthology of esoteric knowledge, myths, and legends. And the moment you start talking about myths and legends, you've got my attention, of course.
Yep.
Going back, oh gosh, my own interest in myths to the early days of Joseph Campbell. And when I discovered that he influenced the writing of the first Star Wars series, I decided I would give this guy some serious attention. And I am a self-confessed disciple of Joseph Campbell. He helped me unravel my intellectual understanding of the spiritual experiences that I'd had. So in my case, here was a guy who had some spiritual experiences, particularly of unconditional love, but was struggling to wrap that in some kind of mythology or that I could actually intellectually come to terms with. And he solved that problem for me. So I'm eternally grateful to him. So the unicorn, I don't think Joseph Campbell, I think we were mentioning earlier, I don't think Joseph Campbell ever talked about unicorns. So fascinated for you to unpack that a bit for us. So tell us, how long's this unicorn been around, and where has he been? It.
So the unicorn has been around really since the creation of the universe. One of my favorite myths actually comes from the Chinese tradition. In it, the creator god Pangu, with the unicorn, the phoenix, the tortoise, and the dragon, four auspicious creatures of the Chinese tradition, work together to chip away at the nothingness and create the world.
Oh,
so
nice.
in that tradition, the unicorn was there since the absolute beginning. In more Western traditions as well, we see the same thing, with the unicorn being there since not only the Edenic paradise with the first man and the first woman, but even before that, where from the void that all was created from, the unicorn was there. So you could really call the unicorn a timeless being. And one of the things that I love the most about the unicorn is that the creator in the Western tradition, when humanity fell to third dimension with all the restrictions that come with this, the unicorn was given a choice. And it could either stay in the higher dimension and just have a pure experience of bliss, uninterrupted bliss, or it could basically become what it is, an interdimensional creature that can slip in. Basically, when humanity needs a little bit of an extra helping hand, it comes in. It can appear to individuals. It can appear to larger groups, basically as needed. And but in terms of known civilization, if you date back to the earliest known civilizations, about 6,000 years ago, we see in all of the different cultures, whether Sumerians, Egyptians, the civilizations of the Indus Valley, of China, basically everywhere that had a civilization, there were different representations in art, even in some of the earliest literature. So the unicorn has really been with us, really as long as we've been the human species.
I'm going to quote from your book, if I may, just briefly, a few lines, because for me it really summed up the core message of your book. And what I'd be really interested in is how the mythology that you've studied, and everybody who is wondering what this book is about, it's actually what Alfonso has done is to draw upon the key traditions in mythology to define the character and the personality of the unicorn. And you say this, that the unicorn is the most magical of all animals. It can shift between our visible world and the other worlds beyond the five senses. If you are open to its guidance, the unicorn can show you that your life has incredible possibilities. We'll say amen to that.
Yes, absolutely.
You can become the best version of yourself and live the life which you desire. The unicorn wants to help you transform yourself and is available to help you. When you call out for the unicorn's help, know that it will appear before you. The unicorn can appear in your dreams, in symbolism, or in any number of ways, for it knows no boundaries. So that's a great statement, and that really, aligns with many of the things that others of us are teaching as well about transformation, becoming the true self. But I'd never, until I read your book, I have to say, Alfonso, I'd never considered the unicorn as being an agent of the universe to enable that transformation. So this has really opened my eyes for, really the first time. So in your own life, let's just put the mythology aside for a second.
Sure.
Do you see a practical manifestation of this? I mean, yes, we all want to transform to be our true self, but in your case, or people that you know, have you seen manifestations of this?
Absolutely. One of the first things I'd like to say in response is when I first started working with Vakasha on the book of Magical Mythical Unicorn, because of some physical challenges that she had and illnesses, we had to work very closely together at her apartment in New York. And that necessitated me staying upstairs with her throughout much of the writing process. And one of the things that Vakasha told me when I first stayed with her is that some people are known to have encounters with the unicorn at her place. And I had just barely, we had just agreed to work together on the book, and I had never seen a unicorn before. I didn't really know too much about the unicorn even at the time. I just was really interested in learning more. And sure enough, about a week into staying with her, I saw the manifestation of the unicorn's horn just appear to me. Upstairs, I woke up. I was not dreaming. It wasn't anything of the sort. And I took that as an omen that I was definitely on the right path working with Vakasha and learning more about the unicorn. In terms of sort of how people can practically work with the unicorn, there's a lot of different ways. I personally have made a pact with the unicorn to try to bring out the gold, shall we say, in me, and sort of get rid of some of the more negative personality traits that might be holding me back, that might be keeping me from ascending up the spiral and turning that inner lead into gold. And so I chose a pact where I promised that some of the negative habits that I had at the time were removed, and the unicorn would help me transform to become the best version of myself, so that I could really be of more service to the world and really just make a greater impact and a beneficial impact. You don't have to do pacts. Many people, you can just simply ask for the unicorn to communicate with you in dreams. And just reaching out with honest and pure intentions. And the unicorn could take a lot of different ways in terms of how it communicates with you. It could be in dreams. It could be just messages that appear telepathically to you, and you're just like, yeah, now I know what to do in this situation. So there's a lot of different ways. The unicorn is really just a creature without limitations. So if you reach out to the unicorn yourself to help you in this process of transformation, you'll probably be surprised at how the unicorn appears to you. I certainly was when the horn manifested before my eyes.
Okay, so let's talk about the horn specifically then. In the mythology, in your research, what is it about the horn? What is the significance of the horn? Because essentially it's a horse, yeah?
Yes.
With a horn, not to be confused with an antelope,
Mm-hmm.
with a single horn. So the people who wrote that mythology, what did they see the significance of the horn to be?
One of the major things that we really try to cover in the book of Magical Mythical Unicorn is just how different things are based on culture. But overall, the general answer that really kind of covers multiple cultures is that the horn really it's what makes it different from just a horse. The horn was blessed by the creator, and from that, it gave the unicorn the magical properties that we know, properties of love, properties of transcendence, properties of helping transform. Without that blessing from the creator and the visual manifestation of it in the horn, the unicorn would just be, not much different than a horse. But it was the horn specifically that gave the unicorn its magical and spiritual qualities. Without it, could there have been a different way to do it? Possibly. But at present, the horn is the specific thing, a specific factor that really gives the unicorn all those magical and spiritual properties.
Which culture traditionally has embraced the unicorn more than any other?
Oh, I love that question. I don't like to pit different cultures against each other. And what I was really surprised is just how widespread the unicorn, the mythology of the unicorn is across cultures. But if I had to narrow it down, I'd say either China or India. Vikas and I did a great job. Probably our proudest moment from the creation of this book is how we tried to make this a real cross-cultural book across different spiritual traditions, across different cultures, and across different time periods. And the richness of the unicorn in the Chinese tradition, in the Indian tradition, I think a lot of us probably are more familiar with the European tradition, and it is quite vast. But I would say probably even more than the European tradition and the British tradition, China or India have such a rich tradition with the unicorn.
Tell me just a little bit about the British tradition, because the unicorn appears on the royal coat of arms, does it not?
Yes, it does.
Where did that come from?
So during the period of fighting before unification of England and Scotland, Scotland is always represented by the unicorn, and England is represented by the lion. So as a token of unification, to bring these disparate people together in a unified kingdom, they sort of put both symbols, both animals, the unicorn and the lion, on British heraldry as a means to bring the people together. And I think it's a beautiful gesture. I think we need more unity, especially in these chaotic times. And I think that shows just exactly how the unicorn is not only a symbol of love and transformation, but also a symbol of unity.
Well, that's being challenged right now in Great Britain, the United Kingdom, with the number of people in Scotland in particular who are seriously thinking whether they want to remain part of that United Kingdom. So maybe the unicorn will get involved in that conversation or not. We'll see. It will form itself and it will work itself out, I'm sure, in its own way. But in your own life, then, just putting the unicorn aside for a second, I'm interested in you, Alfonso, just for this one. Your own spiritual journey. I know the unicorn has been this book, but aside from that, what have there been moments of transformation outside of the unicorn that you'd like to tell us about?
Absolutely. Back in 2008, I had a very dark period in my life. I had been a teacher, and basically I was in an induction program to find teachers in non-traditional methods. And part of that required not only teaching a full load of classes, but also taking courses to work for my master's in education. And when I was at my college after teaching, I saw my principal basically saying, we need to fire Alfonso. He did not like the way I was doing, and I was trying to really uplift my students. And just that vote of no confidence from my principal, my first real job, my first teaching job, I saw the impact I was making on children's lives. Basically, I spun completely out. I had a nervous breakdown, and I did nothing for a year. It was a real dark time, and I was living at home. I was about 25 years old, and my mother and I would watch the X-Files every day. It was sort of a ritual. We would watch an episode, maybe two, and one day there was an episode all about where Fox Mulder, the main character of the show, undergoes past life regression hypnosis. And I had never heard of past life regression hypnosis, but I had internet connection. I had a laptop, and I got on Google and I searched past life regression hypnosis, New York City. And I saw that it was only $250, which wasn't the unreasonable sum of money. So I contacted this hypnotist, Ellie Bill Lewis, and I went over. I'd never been under hypnosis before, much less past life regression hypnosis. So I was kind of skeptical, to be honest. I really didn't know what to expect. I figured like the worst that could happen is I just lose $250 and go on with my day and chalk this up as a learning experience. But in that, after I was induced into hypnosis, I saw 4 past lives of mine. One was in Egypt around the year 1000 in the Common Era. Another was a life as a woman in Germany around 1500s. Another life was in colonial period in America around 1750s. And the 4th and most recent one was right around the 1850s in France, probably my most challenging life. And so I had always been really afraid of death because there's so much I want to do. There's a great quote from the radio DJ Wolfman Jack that it would take me 4 lifetimes to do everything that I set out to do in this one. And, life is very short. So seeing past experiences and knowing that I'll have other chances, it really transformed me because it got rid of a lot of the fear that I have about death. And it allowed me to truly embrace life even more and know that even if I don't get everything right in this life, there are other opportunities. And after I had that past life regression hypnosis, Ellie Bill Lewis, my hypnotist, informed me that there's also something called a life between lives hypnosis that he does. So I also signed up for that. And that was actually my first introduction, this life between lives hypnosis, to my writing partner, Vakasha Brendan. There was an energy. It was just, we were out in space. There was no forms to us. We were just pure energy. And I had a mentor, I'll call it a mentor energy, who almost was chiding me. Like the energy used the metaphor of most people are born at 67 degrees. You were born at 70 degrees. Why have they raised the thermostat and you haven't? And for those who know Vakasha, she loved me so much. It was far beyond the writing partnership. But she also challenged me to be my best self. And she is a force of a woman. And when I first had that hypnosis encounter in 2009, I was stunned. I didn't know what this energy was or who. And 6 years later, when I met Vakasha in this lifetime, I knew I just knew there was a reason why we had to do this project beyond my curiosity about the unicorn. And as I got to know her, I knew, oh wow, this is my mentor from before we were even in these lives. And we had to share this because of our karmic history. We had to do this project. It wasn't just a fun project for us to do. It was a necessary project for us to do. And this was really transformative, just the hypnosis. Just to see that there's so much more than this one life. We don't just have one chance. There are many chances. That doesn't necessitate that we don't try to do the best we can in this life that we currently have. But it gave a lot more freedom to really embrace it and not have nowhere near the fear that I used to have about death.
Wonderful. Yes. Thank you for making yourself vulnerable and telling us all of that, Alfonso. The study that I've done of Carl Jung and the unconscious and the collective unconscious, I think is just an unfathomable treasure chest of the sort of experiences that you just described. And any way that people can tap into that has got to be good, because it is the unconscious. In my book, The Secret of the Alchemist, I talk about it. It's the gateway to the other dimensions. And Professor Carl Jung talked and wrote at great length about that in many ways. So hypnosis is one path. Past lives, is one of the ways that we can communicate with that. So that's really wonderful that you discovered all that. I've got a couple of little quotes. So my first real encounter with a unicorn in any way, shape or form was, of course, C.S. Lewis.
Yes.
And I know you don't quote this in your book, but one of the things that C.S. Lewis says about one of the unicorns in The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe series is a unicorn called Jewel. And he says this, that Jewel was so gentle and soft of speech that if you hadn't known, you would have hardly believed how fierce and terrible that he could be in battle. And we had a quick chat beforehand. I didn't see much on the topic of fierce and terrible unicorns in battle. Now, is this something that C.S. Lewis has just invented? Does this come out of his unconscious understanding, or is there some evidence in your study of mythology of a fierce side, or sort of a righteous fighting for the good side of the unicorn?
Yes, I think that's a great word to use, righteous fighting from the unicorn. Vikash and I purposely tried to omit many of the more combative sides of the unicorn from the Book of the Magical Mythical Unicorn. We joked that we'd release a blooper reel of some of the things that we omitted from the book after this first one is released. But yes, the unicorn can and has certainly been in righteous battle. So C.S. Lewis is not making this up. But it's very clear that it's only righteous, and when it fights, it never fights to kill. It fights to sort of stop the harm from happening. So it may temporarily, temporarily stop the fighting through its battle, but not to harm, never to harm. It just doesn't have it in its character to hurt. So, for example, in many traditions where the unicorn is being hunted, it may, defend itself to avoid being, killed, but it doesn't ever hurt anyone, no matter what the intentions are, no matter how bad a person is or a group, attacking it is. It doesn't kill, it doesn't intentionally harm, but it can defend itself and it can defend others, in battle, but it's never lethal, never Mortal Kombat or anything of the sort.
So maybe a slimmer volume, it may come along later, the other side of the unicorn's character. But anything that's prepared to fight a righteous battle on our behalf, in my book, is a good battle to fight, because the universe often is at battle with itself, and there's stuff going on, and sometimes it feels that way subconsciously, I'm sure, for many people at times. So anybody who's prepared to come in and give us a bit of a hand to overcome and win some of those battles without hurting anybody has got to be a good thing. I love the quote. One of my favorite quotes of all time is also from a children's author, Lewis Carroll, which you do quote in your book, which is where the unicorn says to Alice through the looking glass, this one, well, now that we've seen each other, if you'll believe in me, then I'll believe in you. And I just love that. So is he tapping into a precondition? I know you said you made a pact with the unicorn. And the other thing I was thinking, is there such a thing as a personal unicorn, or are we talking about a single entity? I've just remembered to ask you that question.
That's a great question. So there are multiple unicorns. It's not like the unicorn is just one creature, but in terms of a personal unicorn, I believe that everyone can have a personal relationship with the unicorn by just simply calling out to it and asking for its help, asking for its guidance, asking for its love and compassion. and asking for to help guide you if you're dealing with particular challenges in your life. So yeah, we could all have our personal experiences with the unicorn.
Okay, so Alice was being invited by the unicorn in the story there to have a personal relationship. Actually, that's so here we are in a pretty challenging world right now. May you live in interesting times is an ancient curse. We are definitely in interesting times right now. Unicorn aside, what are your thoughts about the way that as a species here now we're going to move forward to try and rebuild some of the trust and love that we need in our societies?
I hope we can do that. Right now we're kind of facing a battle between love and hatred, basically. And I think that we all need to remember that every individual, has a spark of the creator inside them. And, while we may not agree with everyone, I think we have to validate every individual's, personal right to exist and to be who they are and to follow their path. And, right now there's so much division in society and hatred. And it's really just my hope for humanity that we can transcend that we can unify, and that we can have more honest communication with each other and learn where we're all coming from, so we can come together as a shared humanity and really just try to make this planet even better. I mean, we're facing massive environmental crises, and there might not even be a planet, for us, for our grandkids. And so, it's a real challenge. And I just hope that people can unify, that we can work for the greater good, not just our own individual good. And, we can make this, we can turn things around, basically. And that's my hope.
Do you have a poem? I'm sort of hoping there's a poem lurking in your repertoire that you could lead us out with, Alfonso, because I haven't heard you recite any of your poetry, but if you've got one, we'd all love to hear it right now.
I don't quite have a poem right here for you,
okay.
But how about an excerpt from the book, The Magical Mythical Unicorn?
Okay, all right. Yes, I'll take that.
All right. Here we go then. So the unicorn wants to challenge you to become that best version of yourself. Fear and doubt can destroy all of the wonder of life. The unicorn offers you a choice. Do you want to stay where you are, stuck in limitations, or will you have the courage and wisdom to believe that more is possible, that your dreams can be achieved, and that you can become the most authentic version of yourself? If you can hear what the unicorn is communicating to you, then you can realize that all boundaries are illusions, and the truth is that anything that you can imagine is possible to manifest.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
With that wonderful message, we'll leave you at this point, Alfonso. Thank you so much. Please keep in touch. We'd love to find out more about your future projects, what you're working on in 2021, and let's just make sure everybody's who wants to buy a book knows where they can get it. So the book again is called The Book of the Magical Mythical Unicorn, and it's available from the September the 1st.
Yes.
On all good online bookstores, no doubt. Anywhere in the world. And
yep.
We wish you every success with that book, and I hope the message that you've been sharing with us today is really transmitted to everyone who reads it. And thank you so much for writing it.
Thank you, Colm. I really appreciate it.
Blessings. Thanks for joining me. Cheers.
Thank you.